Hello and welcome to Leagues Behind, the official vodcast of the Arena Gauntlet League that looks back at past tournament offerings and dares to ask the questions. Could we have done this better? Or did we nail it 100% absolutely correctly the first time out? Today we're going to be looking back at one of my personal favorites, the Planechase tournament, which is at the beginning of January 2023. And my special guest who's joining me, Sawyer Thompson. He used to be a member of the league committee. I think this was your last league or very close to it.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
it was important for me to have you on one last time on Leagues Behind before your tenure was kind of expired. And I should say, I'm Christopher York. I'm the host of the show, the tournament organizer, and the founder of the AGL. And so very excited to talk about this tournament with you, Sawyer. Just to set the stage for lots of new players who might be watching this, can you just introduce yourself? Maybe tell us where your head was at this moment with the LC, and how do you remember this tournament coming together?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Sawyer, Sawyer T, Soy Boy, whatever you want to call me. I have been playing since Crimson Vow, playing AGL. Got a few championships under my belt, including the most recent league. Woohoo.
Congratulations!
Um,
Yes, yes. I was going to bring that
yeah,
up, but you already you beat me to it.
yeah. Um, And yeah, I was on the league committee for I think a couple of years. What year was Plane Chase again? You said it,
Yeah, it's
2022?
early 2023, January 2023. I think it
Yeah.
was
Okay.
meant to fill a space that Wizards
Yeah.
normally leaves at the beginning of the new year where they don't introduce a new set. So we had a 6 week
Mhm.
gap to fill, and that's where the plane chase idea had its chance to shine.
Yeah. And I think, well, for those of you listening who have not played any of these earlier leagues, but it's good to like harken back. These were simpler times. There were not like fancy mechanics where you get messaged by things. Most leagues were like a teeny tiny twist in terms of what pack you can select, or like a faction mechanic. But it didn't feel like a video game in the way that it does now. And I think Plane Chase was actually an amazing step in that direction.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Sawyer. And maybe it was a probably our most popular offering to date back then, and there was a lots of call for redoing it. Let's before we get too far into it, we should we should note what the mechanics are,
Oh, right.
so that we can have a sort of more informed discussion. Because remember, only 68 players played in this tournament. Hard to believe.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that puts things in perspective. Like we're more than four times larger now by size, by number of
Yeah.
players. And we should also shout out Daniel G, who was our first back-to-back league winner, who won this league. Now, for the mechanics themselves, so that we have like the Arena Gauntlet League is sort of based around this classic formula of 6 weeks of play. If you lose, you add a pack until you either hit 11 losses and are eliminated, or you survive all the way to week 6 and hopefully make the finals. Although, as I understand it, some people do come ninth. Might still be live in the tournament, but not quite make it. I don't know, Slargy.
Yeah.
Probably some things to say about that.
No comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, fair enough. What made Plane Chase unique mechanically, before we get into how we came up with the tournament idea, was that we would play exactly 5 matches a week. So normally there's a little bit of flex, so you can kind of have a week off, week on. Some weeks you can play as low as 3, some weeks you can play as high as 7 matches, depending on how you've banked your matches. But this was exactly 5 matches a week because the conceit of the whole tournament was every week we'd kind of turn a page and there would be another plane that we would journey to as an entire tournament. And on each plane, just like in the game Plane Chase, right, there'd be a sort of global effect that everybody would play under, and also the comeback packs, or punishment packs as we called them way back when, would change according to which plane we ended up on. There were 21 planes, and the way that it worked was from the planar deck, we would take 6 planes out, basically burn them, and those random 6 packs that were associated with those planes would be your starting pool. So it was a bit like Chaos League done right, because around this time, people loved Chaos, but people also pushed back on, hey, why are we running another Chaos tournament, right? We already had Chaos 1, Chaos 2. This would have been Chaos 3, but we needed to do something different. We needed to have a twist. And so the idea is we would move from plane to plane. At the beginning of the week, we'd reveal one of our cards, and it would show us what restrictions we would play under, what kind of packs we would get. And then at the end of the tournament, the top 8 players would play in a mega draft, and the mega draft sets were determined by whatever planar cards were left over in the planar deck. So we would basically play with as many sets as possible from Arena's available catalog of sets at that time, which I guess were around 21, so that kind of tells you where we were historically. And we'll talk about the particular planes, but before we do that, right, let's talk more about where the LC was at as a community, what kind of stuff we did. If you have any recollections of sort of how we operated back then, all that stuff would be really useful, Sawyer.
Yeah, well, so my main recollection specifically with Planechase is that I see this as totally your brainchild, Chris, because I think I remember you dropping, I can't even remember if it was in the league committee channel or just in general, but this kind of just like, I've got something brewing and just a photo of one of the planes with an interesting effect.
Yeah.
And so it was this little like teaser, and I think you kind of continued to just post them and be like, "What if we did this?" And just drop a little one. And that idea of teasing little bits of the league mechanics actually has totally carried on, and I love how the league committee to this day will build hype by just dropping a little bit, almost like Maro's little teasers for a new set. Um, yeah, so
Thank you.
I think that was the first time that we had the teaser thing, and it was coming from you because this had been percolating in your head for a while. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much right. I tried to make this happen in person at
Hmm.
face-to-face games back in the mid-teens or late teens in Montreal, and in the end, like because we were running it through the store via paper, the store would still have a say in what kind of mechanics we used and what we didn't. And the store's
Hmm.
idea was that this would be too complicated for people. Players won't enjoy this. They'll feel intimidated. So here's what we ended up doing. I ended up making like 10 planes, and they were offered as possible alternatives to regular match play if both players agreed. And of course, the way it works, right? The simplest route forward will usually be the default, and so very few matches got played with the planes. The concept wasn't really tried. But for some reason, it stuck with me, and for years, I was kind of fiddling away on this like set of planar effects, and sometimes I would, if I was playing like a commander game or something, I would have like a stack of these cards and a stack of these effects, and I'd say, okay, let's just try this out. Let's see how this goes. Planechase always felt to me in terms of like the physical set. Have you ever played with the Planechase cards, like the big
No, I
oversized
haven't.
cards?
I've seen them, but I haven't played with them.
Yeah, they're okay. They're merely okay. And I think the thing is like if you don't like a plane that you're on, all you have to do is keep paying mana to re-roll the dice, and then you can kind of like
Okay.
jump out of the plane that you don't want to be on and go to some other place. But I'm like, well, what if you just had to sit there for the duration until something happened, until some triggering event occurred, and then you would leave the place once the conditions were satisfied. You couldn't just pay mana to re-roll your plane. But what if you're really stuck there? You have to like think differently for a little while, and that's where we came up with the idea of we have 6 weeks in the tournament. We have a catalog of possible events, so it's like the excitement of spinning a wheel, a little bit of randomness in there, and I think what the LC talked me out of, I think, was putting in planes that were too negative, and this is something I've sort of arrived
Yeah.
at different places. And Adam is kind of with me now and thinking that maybe we want to have some negative effects in terms of just keeping it really exciting, because if your possible outcomes for a random roll are just like excellent, very good, or good, that's still a
Mhm.
pretty limited range of possible emotions that you could sort of get at the end of the day. So if there's just a small chance of something really terrible happening, and the sort of classic example, right, is like a Phyrexian arena, right, where you don't get any pack, right? You're just stuck in Phyrexian. When you lose, you just lose, and you don't get any comeback pack. That might be something that's really challenges the comeback mechanic, or the sense of fun that we normally sort of like encounter a loss with in the league. Something that would challenge your intuitions and your feelings of safety. In any case, we should probably talk a little bit about the planes themselves. So do you have the rules document there, or should I guide you through?
I think you should guide me through. I did just want to add like a little
Oh,
piece of
sure.
extra, an extra thought on that, which is I think up until this point, the league committee wasn't serving as like game designers in quite the same way. Like there would be, like one mechanic that would be talked about, but a lot of the league committee work was deciding like timings of things, deciding the exact like rule set that we'd use, settling disputes.
Right.
Um, and it was more like a moderator role.
Right.
And I think this was a turning point to go from like moderators to game designers. And something that I thought was really cool in the way that the plans were developed,
Yes.
is the way that different people approach them from different lenses. So like for me, what I care about the most is the gameplay. And so when I was designing planes or like throwing out ideas for them, I often would would have like no idea what possible plane and magic like fit into it, or if it was like exciting. But I would just be like, I would love to play games in this setting with like this modified rule. Um, and then I would say you were more interested in like making ones that seem like fun and exciting and memorable. And then, somebody like Johnny maybe has more of an eye on like the flavor and the Vorthos part, and kind of like making sure that things, make sense, or taking the opposite approach that I would, where like you start with a plane and are like, what's a mechanically appropriate effect for this area? So I think it was really cool to like push us all to be game designers and not just like league organizers.
Yeah, and I think that's where things have stayed. I think since then, and I think that's
Mhm.
a lot of the satisfaction of serving on the LC, is that you do get to. I mean, now I've taken a giant step back, and I throw an idea in here and there, or maybe sometimes I even take a lead on a tournament, but I that's not the norm anymore,
Mhm.
by and large. So when I do get in there, I get excited to try things out. But it's much more, let's say, everybody taking turns, because if everyone did the bulk of the work every time, I think people would burn out really quickly. And I think that possibly, right, like you can see that. I mean, I don't know what point you were at when you retired from the LC, but I can imagine,
Mhm.
right? Like you just sort of get to a certain point, you're like, I just can't invest this much time anymore. And I think that you had given us the LFM bot, right, which we're still using today, and
Mhm.
you'd had other contributions. And I'm sure there's things in life that kind of pull you away. But what keeps you here? What keeps me here in the LC and working
Mhm.
with them is the joy of sort of taking a concept, right from its infancy, into seeing how our player base relates to it and what they've got to say about it, and how they want to iterate on it or use it again or discard it. And it's kind of like it's a toy box that never gets old, or maybe it's more like a Lego set. I'm not sure where my analogy is going here.
Yeah.
But I've seen tournament concepts that I never would have expected that we do, including, like, even though I was like one of the advocates for getting the map mechanic for many leagues. I was trying to get a map element going. We finally have a map element, care of Steve, and ironically, it's like we're playing Go. Have you ever played Go? I bet you have.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So right now it's like we're putting down stones and cutting off pieces of territory, very much like a game of Go, right? So
Yeah.
that's a sort of unintended, emergent gameplay, and you end up.
Mhm.
We're having a little war right now with two other starships trying to sew up a piece of the galaxy to
Yeah.
like to basically say like if you want to explore this part of the galaxy, you're gonna have to waste some moves going over spaces we've already checked, and I think that's kind of cool, right? That's kind of cool. And again, that's far beyond what we could have done, I think, back in 2023. But here we are, only 2 years later, and it's a whole new world.
Yeah. And there's also the like wonderful chaos of not being able to organize your whole crew.
Yeah, oh God,
You
yeah.
know, and sometimes you like I've suggested ideas and then I look at the map and I'm like, how the heck did we get over here? Like what were people
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. It is
Yeah.
it's anarchic, right? Like
Yeah.
there's six different people with their hands on the steering wheel.
Exactly. It's
So
like Good Today's Pokemon or yeah.
all right, so are we ready to get to the planes?
Yeah.
And
Let's do
again,
it.
like even though, as you said, like I came with a set of planes which were in my mind, ready to publish.
Mhm.
They all credit due to the LC for talking me down and making me roll back some of the concepts and actually making them work. One of the first rules that I have to give credit for is like I did not distinguish between weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the first thing that I think maybe I don't know if it was you and Caleb or Johnny and Caleb, or there were definitely like a subcommittee of people there who worked hard to identify planes that were going to be difficult to run in the early weeks, right? So we had, I think it ended up just being 4 of the 21 planes that were only on offer from weeks 4 through 6. Once you got a certain mass of cards, then you could play these planes. And I'll sort of go through those first, just so we can kind of like bracket them off from the rest. So we had the Embereth tournament, and that took place in Eldraine. And the punishment packs we opened in the week that we were there would have been all Throne of Eldraine. And the rule there was league decks must contain a maximum of one type of basic land. So it's a monocolor plane. And obviously that would need a lot of cards to work, right? We couldn't just have those from week number 1. That would be pretty. That would be pretty demanding. Then we had Sky Sail, which was from Ikoria, and all the punishment packs would be from Ikoria. Lair of Behemoths, although I don't know who calls it Lair of Behemoths. I think that was a dead title. Everyone just calls it Ikoria. And the idea there was that we were kind of using a companion imitation mechanic, so all league decks would have a minimum size of 80 cards. Again, you need a sort of large amount of cards for it to work. I'll just quickly run through the last two. Sokenzan from Kamigawa, so all the packs would be from Kamigawa Nihon Dynasty. The rule here was all non-land cards in your league deck must have even mana values, unless all non-land cards in your league deck have odd mana values. So in other words, it takes your pool, your league pool, and cuts it in half. So you only have 50% of your cards that are available to you, assuming again that you have an even distribution of odd and even cards, which isn't always the case, but you know what I mean. It's roughly half and half. Finally, the Rowan Games, and you have something to say about this one. This is from the plane of Theros, so all punishment packs are from Theros Beyond Death. And the rule here is that all league matches must be played in the best of 5 games format, which you're familiar with from the new rule for ending these very large tournaments. Again, congratulations for being the winner of our largest tournament so far, Final Fantasy. But the idea here wasn't so much that the deck size needed to be big or the league pool needed to be wide, but rather that it would slow down the tournament. And if we did this in early weeks and to make the games feel like they mattered enough to be a best of 5, they would have to happen in the later weeks when the player base starts getting thinned out a bit. So I'll stop there and let you comment on those later week planes and get your feedback.
Yeah. Do you also want to just mention ones that we actually hit during the league?
Yeah, if you can recollect what
We
the progression was.
kind of rendering. Because I think we had the Yorian companion one, right?
The Sky
Or did we have
Sail.
Adithan? Yeah, I'm trying to think. We can dig through the archives.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm pretty confident we did not have the best of five one, and I think if we did, people would have absolutely hated it.
Well, maybe, but I mean, you just played the best of
Yeah.
five finals, and
Yeah.
I listened to our podcast,
Oh
our
yeah.
sister podcast,
Yeah.
Hunt the Week, and
Yeah.
evidently rave reviews. You love the format. You like best
I
of
did.
five, after all.
But I think having five matches in a week of best of five would be tough for some people.
For,
I really like Magic. I can play kind of unlimited Magic.
yeah, well, we're
But
assuming that if you're in
yeah.
this tournament, you love Magic, right? We're just kind of, and that's more Magic, freely available to you.
Yeah.
If you want to dig through your computer and find out facts about the tournament, which planes we actually visited, that'd be super handy because I've got the recording software on mine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll see if I can dig it up in the background.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll run out
Yeah.
some earlier planes that we got from weeks 1 to 4. I'm going to mention some general design principles that I've sort of like laid out, and you can tell me what if you think of any that I've missed. So it strikes me that like the planes kind of fell in roughly 3 buckets, right? Which is that some would be like a bonus sheet, right? So the first one I can think of is Academy at Teleria West. The plane was Dominaria. All punishment packs are from Dominaria. And whenever you win a match, you add one random card from the Historic or Explorer Analogies sets to your pool. So what this was it was a way to use non-pack arena card resources as a kind of bonus sheet. And it was a little bit win more, right? Because it would be added to your packs when you won. But I'm still excited about this kind of mechanic because there's tons of electronic resources on the software that we just never get to see in play, right? Because they're part of a starter set, or they're part of a Planeswalker deck, or they're part of a Historic or Explorer anthology, or whatever, right? They're just sitting there on the client. So I don't know. That's our first kind of type of plane. What do you think of this type of plane generically? We won't go into all of them because this probably hits around 3 different planes. Is this exciting enough by today's standards to spend a week in a place where you're just getting a bonus set card? I don't know if that would meet our current design standards.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is something that we saw with Planechase 2.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think we've mentioned it yet. There was a second Planechase League, um, which is that we hit a lot of these planes that don't um, really like change the gameplay or change the decisions that people are making. And it felt like anticlimactic and kind of disappointing to players. But this first Planechase League, we just absolutely hit the jackpot in terms of the order. And I did go through the archives and find it. So when
Okay.
we get to that,
Where did we go?
I-
Tell us now, Sawyer. Where did we go?
okay. So we started off with Dom, original Dominaria, Amonkhet Remastered, Dominaria United, M20, Zendikar, M21.
So by by, by,
Um,
by contemporary standards, not an overpowered starting pool, we'll say.
yeah,
Pretty janky.
yes. DMU stands out as way stronger than the rest of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Good fixing.
and then for week one, we were in the World Tree, um,
Right.
which meant that everybody got 3 of each basic snow-covered land, and all punishment packs were from Kaldheim.
Okay.
Um,
Let's just stop there
yeah,
before we go on
yeah.
temporarily to other things.
Oh, and it was errata to be 5 of each snow-covered land.
I know this is controversial because I thought
Yeah.
I thought this gave too much. I thought it made it too easy for people. So this is the second kind of plane, right? We talked about the Dominaria like bonus sheet. This is another kind of very similar mechanic where you give a mini pack or a full pack of cards to people to help some parasitic mechanic thrive in a chaos tournament, right? Like if you're playing Kaldheim League and you're opening up Kaldheim every week, You're going to get tons of snowlands organically. It doesn't really matter. But here, right, with the World Tree, you get all your snowlands kind of just given to you when you planeswalk there. And so all of a sudden, any cards that you have that use the snowland mechanic, they're juiced to the gills. And I think the worry was like, we went from those cards not mattering at all to those cards potentially being quite dominant. I remember that there was that blue card that you can just keep.
Color.
Yeah, you can just keep pumping it up with snow mana. I was worried that like for that week at least, or actually you got to keep the snowlands forever, right?
Yeah.
So I was worried about like those cards just being absolutely busted for the rest of the tournament. So here's the second kind of thing, right? If you give a pack that enables a sort of parasitic mechanic, do you think this is good or bad for this kind of tournament design? Like, are we making too many concessions for parasitic mechanics?
No, I think this is great. And it was, I think, a real problem with the Chaos Leagues. I think I only played one of those. But you would just, I think it's important that when people get their, we don't call them punishment packs. What do we call them?
Comeback packs.
I still call them punishment packs. When people get their comeback packs, you want them to feel like excited to continue to play the league. Like our goal is to have everybody play through until they make it to the end or reach 11 losses.
Yeah.
And so you want to like give them hope. You want them to, you want the pain of losing a match to be lessened by the excitement of opening this pack. And in a regular Chaos format, when you lose and you get your comeback packs and it's Kaldheim and it's full of these snow cards that you will never be able to play because you have one snow land. It's just really, it just feels bad. It's like you get cards, you want to be able to play those cards. And so I think this was a great design. The 3 versus 5 thing, questionable. Maybe 4 was the sweet spot. I remember losing some matches to that troll that gets like +2/+0.
Yes.
That was kind of a headache, but it was strong in that like week 1, and then pretty quickly people were doing more powerful things, and it evened out.
Yeah.
So I thought it was good.
Yeah, I think that part of the feeling for me was like, if we're giving 3 of each kind of basic land, that's 15 cards. That's basically like another free pack. And then there's something aesthetic about that number that appealed to me. With 4, I could kind of get my head around it because there are 20 card packs for things like Commander Draft, right? Mm-hmm. But 25 cards, that's a lot to whack into anybody's pool. So I guess there's like you can debate like the fine tuning of the numbers, but again, like even with adding the snowlands as a sort of bonus pack, I think that in order to keep people's interest, the plane would still have to demand more of players, and again, give them more agency, give them more choices. And again, I think like it's kind of weird the disparity in the feedback from Planechase 1 and Planechase 2 is that this was so new at the time, and hey, just even like the idea of everybody going to a different plane and opening different packs together was exciting enough in a lot of cases. Whereas, like, I feel like because Planechase 1 had such a positive reception, expectations were high for Planechase 2. And again, like you, and I think Johnny had stated this at the time too, we just didn't get as lucky with the rolls, with the planar rolls in Planechase 2 as we did in Planechase 1. So if we ever come back to this tournament idea, we're going to have to, rejig a lot of the planes or put our finger on the scales to make sure the rolls come out nicely in some way or another. Okay, so moving on with our history lesson. Where do we go in week 2, Sawyer?
So week 2, we went to quite the controversial plane.
Brawl.
This is Mezio Forgery House, the Capenna plane.
Oh, God.
All punishment packs are from Streets of New Capenna. And whenever you win a match, choose one card from the loser's punishment pack, copy it, and add it to your pool.
This was one of my favorites because I do like, mechanics that have a little element of feel bad to them. And if you recall, my original version of this was a lot nastier. It was like ante, in that the winner would just get to steal the best card. from the pack, and the loser would get the remnants.
Yeah.
And this was already I don't know, the mechanic as it's printed on Mezio Forgery House, right? It's not a punishing mechanic for the loser. It's less of a how can I put it? The disparity between the position
Yeah.
of the winner and the loser is slightly mitigated in that the
Mhm.
loser still has 14 more cards than the winner does. It's just the winner gets the best card, right?
Yeah.
So it's just less good for the loser. Well, it's still as equally good for the loser. It's just the winner gets a little bit of gravy as well. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
that egregious, but I remember just like a lot of people's intuitions about the way punishment packs or comeback packs should function were challenged, and there were a lot of hands in the air. I remember as well about this plane. But I think maybe the controversy is part of the fun. It's part of the reason we look back at this and like, okay, week two, and I could tell from the smiley face, like we have stories to tell about this, right?
Yeah.
There are still feels about this plane 2 years, 2.5 years in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I was saying with you as a designer pay a lot of attention to the emotional experience of playing and creating these like memorable moments. I'm glad that we talked you down because I think having a card taken from your pack is just too negative of an experience. And I think it's a really good design. We knew that this was controversial territory.
yeah,
Anything that feels win more is upsetting to people. But it is like the loser's benefit is strictly better than the winner's benefit.
yes,
And I think that's really important with this. Like even if it were just the winner gets a random rare or something, people would be complaining because they'd lose and their pack would be worse than that bomb that their opponent got. And so I like that built into it. Like the loser will always be like, "Well, I did come back a little bit," you know.
do you remember anything about the controversy at the time? What people were saying about this plane or about this experience?
Um, yeah, people were just when they lost that week, they felt like it just felt extra brutal. So there were people who went like 5-0 week one and then 2-3 or 1-4 week two, and were just like, I'm in such a worse position than somebody who is at the same record and just did that in the opposite order.
But is
It
that
was
just a
almost like they were being like, punished for doing well in the first week.
But it's true that they get the same number of cards, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even from
Well,
a
they
better
get
set than called
three
Heim,
less.
right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's more of like a player impression or a player feel rather than
Yeah.
how reality actually is. But I do
Yeah.
think that's an important part of design is recognizing like, okay, this might not be unfair, but people are going to feel it's unfair. And if they're going to feel it's unfair, then maybe you have a duty to fix it, even if it's just optics.
Yeah.
I think too, like
Yeah.
the flavoring of this of as a crime world where something's being taken from you, whereas if the flavoring was like this is friendly sharing
Mhm.
world and you share your
Mhm.
best card by making a copy. I feel like if we flavored
Yeah.
it that way to people, there'd be a lot
Oh,
less
yeah.
outrage because it'd be like, oh, it's fuzzy sharing world.
Oh,
Here you go, friend. Have this gift. Have this copied card from my pool. Right? Same
I
thing
think the
though.
opposite actually.
Okay.
I think I think being able to justify it with flavor makes this more palatable to people. And I think people would see through the sharing thing immediately and would just be even angrier.
Wait a minute, this is just fucking Mezio Forgery House. This
Yeah.
isn't fuzzy sharing world.
Um, I do also just want to briefly mention this is planes like this are a reason that it was so important that we set the 5 match per week
Yes.
like minimum and maximum, because otherwise everyone would play 3 matches in Kaldheim and see that this was rolled and say like, absolutely not. I want 7 matches here.
Was this the era we gave people did we give people 2 days advance notice when we rolled these or was it just on the day?
It was 24 hours before the league
Okay.
started, or before the
So
new week started.
yeah, so it would be like enough time that it would be disadvantageous to wait for the announcement, I think. But still, yeah, people might still hold matches back, thinking that they're going to avoid some sort of imagined disaster. All right, so now that's an interesting one, right? This is that was a chance to talk about negative mechanics, or at least negatively valenced mechanics. Where do we go in week number 3?
In week number 3, we went to the plane of Arcavios, home of Strixhaven. We went to the Biblioplex, and it said, when you planeswalk to the Biblioplex, each player receives a reward pack containing 4 colorless lesson cards. All punishment packs are from Strixhaven School of Mages. So very similar to the Kaldheim plane.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is enable a parasitic mechanic. I think that again, they're, these are early weeks, and I think people were sort of like still. They were happy to get out of New Capenna, and they were happy to get away from that bad feeling mechanic. So I think like the reception of Strixhaven was maybe better than you might expect from today's play standards. And I think people were also happy to have a little lull in the action while they braced for the week 4 to 6 planes to come into play, right? Which because those ones are a bit spicier. So not much to say about that one, I guess, unless you have particular stories about Strixhaven.
I don't. I will just mention though. I because I didn't say it before. Caleb also wrote a story spotlight for each plane, and I really enjoyed that. I think it was. I don't remember us having any story spotlight things before this. So after it was rolled, it would get posted, and it would just be a story about like in this case, all of the league members are transfers who have just shown up at Strixhaven. And the story spotlight is from the perspective of somebody native to the plane who's just like, all of these students are here. Like, what is going on? We're going to need a new crash course. So I really loved that, just like leaning into this feeling of we're jumping around planes week to week, going to all these different places.
Yeah, that was a big contribution, and I think Caleb did it, and I think that maybe Ryan did it in different leagues, if I'm not mistaken. And now, as you can see in the Edge of Eternity's league, there's just like tons of volunteer writers to sort of help flavor the mechanic of galaxy exploration, which just adds a sort of like whole level of resonance for people who care about that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of people who do care about at least in some way, the lore of the multiverse and the feels and yeah, that's such a big contribution that very generous people, have made and still make to, improve the tournament experience for everybody. So thanks to Caleb and our host of contemporary volunteers who are helping flavor the multiverse.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I guess also while I'm just calling out these posts from between the announcements, there are also a lot of match losses and warnings being issued.
are there?
um, yeah, there was somebody who like copied 2 of the wrong cards. Like they copied cards from the wrong pack. And then somehow all the way in week 3, somebody got a match loss for playing a 40 card deck. um, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We used to name and shame in the main announcements thread, right? That was
Yeah.
that's something we changed. I don't know why. I think it's good to sort of pillory people who break the rules.
Yeah.
But we live in a kinder, gentler world now where we have a different thread called League Committee where people's violations go to be announced. Still, I mean, when you're looking back at the history of a certain league, right? Seeing these offenses pop up, it kind of lets you know like the culture of the time, what people were getting wrong, what people were getting right, and even though these mechanics are fairly simple by today's standards, you know, players are going to find a way to to mess them up, and that's no slight against the players. It's just if you're working with this number of people, and again, the kind of Magic we play is more complicated. Even the easy versions is more complicated than regular Magic games, right? So it's not unexpected that we're going to have some violations en route. All right, so take us to week 4.
Um, so this is where just the dice were rigged to give us a perfect experience, I would say, because after 3 pretty uneventful kind of warm-up planes, things get real here. We rolled Embereth Tournament, the Eldraine plane. All punishment packs are from Throne of Eldraine. League decks must contain a maximum of 1 type of basic land. And just to clarify here, you could run as many non-basics as you want if they were untyped.
Yes.
But if you chose to have like swamps, you couldn't have any cards with any other basic subtypes.
Yes. Yeah, so it wasn't quite a monocolored plane, but it was pretty close to it. Like you had to be very frugal with your splashes, or you had to have opened up a lot of duels sort of organically as the tournament went around. This was sort of not only inspired by the mechanics of Eldraine, but also inspired by Caleb's particular playstyle. You remember what he used to do when he would get close to elimination? He would just strip down his deck into the best color. He'd run a monocolor league deck until he died. He would go kamikaze, basically. Uh, stripping away all the unessential colors and just going for the finish line. So this was a little celebration of his playstyle or traditions. Do you have any memories or impressions of what this plane is? Because this is a different kind of plane yet again, right? This is one of the rules bending or deck
Yeah.
restriction planes, or what we now have come to call stipulation planes, right?
Mhm.
Which
Yeah.
fundamentally changes a lot of things, and I think it gives a lot more player agency. And
Mhm.
I mean, it requires more of players in terms of the effort they put in, but potentially they have a more rewarding experience if they're willing to buckle down and study.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it being really great for a couple of reasons. Well, one was that I feel like week four is the point at which you start to get a little tired of your deck. Like, um, you're probably running a similar thing over that whole period. You open your pack and you take like that's the point at which you're only taking one or two cards. You're rarely doing a full rebuild.
And it's also the point where
Um,
eliminations start to happen most frequently too,
yeah,
right? Which is important. That's like the
yeah,
turning point, essentially. Week four is where people start to the herd gets thinned out a little bit.
yeah, yeah. So people still got to like most people still got to experience it. And it forces you to just like totally reset your pool, go back to square one, and look at it in a totally different lens. Like I think maybe I had been some green splashy thing, which is what a lot of people were doing. And then I think I went mono red aggro for this week, which was so fun and totally different and was not powerful enough to make it in a normal week, but actually like played out really well. So yeah, and then it also serves as an amazing comeback. Like there were people who had great records going into week four, and they're really punished because it's just so hard for them to even make playables. So I think that's kind of fun. I like things that allow for a little bit more of a comeback. And then it also did a great job nerfing the snow decks from Kaldheim because
Right.
you could only run three of the snowlands if you were just in one color, or I guess
Yeah.
five. We did
Five.
five,
Yeah.
but yeah, five is not enough really.
Five is not 25.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's fair enough. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot you could say, I guess, and you have said about how these planes interact with each other, and the sins of one are sort of washed away by the restrictions of the other. And if your pool's weak in one regard, I guess sort of just changing the stipulation means that maybe your pool gets a chance to shine in a way that it wouldn't if there weren't any restrictions. So it's not only comeback packs; it's like comeback planes,
yeah.
right? Which is kind of an interesting idea. We'll go over a sort of best of after we get through the historical progression. Where are we going next? Week number 5.
Next one is Sky Sail, Ikoria. All punishment packs are from Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths, and league decks have a minimum size of 80 cards.
Yeah, I liked this one. I remember liking this one.
Yeah,
Just because it puts you back in a way to that fun part of the league at the very beginning where you have to use sketchy cards to fill out your
exactly.
deck. And
Yeah.
tutoring mechanics and cards become way more valuable as your deck becomes more vast.
Mhm.
And I remember actually, some people had the question. They opened up a Yorion organically
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
week, and they're like, "Does that mean I can just play an 80 card deck?" Where no, it's plus 20. So your deck
yeah.
size has to be 100 cards if you want to companion your Yorion, which was kind of nutty.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that worked out well. I mean, it's just perfect. Again, just the timing, the way that this took out is just so good. You've just come from this monocolored plane. Now you get to like open up your whole pool again, and then it's so big that you're able to play those like really fun, not that powerful cards that won't make it into your deck in week 4 of a regular league. Um, so
And
I love
you're
it.
using a lot of your colors too, right? So you're probably back up to 3 colors, probably at the
Yeah.
very least, at the deck this size. And then to round out the tournament, what was our last week?
Our final week was um, by far the most controversial.
Oh,
Baldur's Gate. So the plane was Forgotten Realms. When you planeswalk to Baldur's Gate, each player adds one of 10 uncommon legendary creatures to their league pools. League matches must be played in the 60 card friendly Brawl format, and all punishment packs are from AFR.
Brawl, the great divider of a Gauntlet League players. Some people love it, some people hate it, and this plane was just meant to enable the basic game mechanic. Give you a commander that's not too broken so that you can use whatever your strongest 2 colors are.
Yeah.
Wow. Any recollections of what this was like? Again, this is a pretty big switch, right? These are 3 big stipulation switches.
Yeah. Well, I think this was the league that Jordan had um Rafine, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He had opened a Rafine from New Capenna and just had a completely busted Brawl deck. Um,
That'll do
yeah.
it.
So that was tough, is people who naturally opened really strong commanders. Just you get access to your best card every game, and you get access to 3 colors where everybody else has to play 2.
Yep.
Um, so that was tough.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, I mean, I think that there's a sort of ongoing debate. I don't think this is ever going to get resolved about whether or not we should ever have sealed brawl experiences. It's probably one of the things you could write an article about if we had a newsletter. It was something that I'd like to hear the pros and cons on this topic because the people that love it a lot, keep
yeah.
agitating to bring it back, and the people that hate it want nothing to do with it. I suppose it's a bit like alchemy, the alchemy debate in that regard, right? Do alchemy
Yeah.
cards have a place in league play?
Yeah, I think the difference between like some people just hate alchemy and that's okay. But I think the issue is Brawl is just impossible to be balanced. There's just no way that you can get really feel fair. And people will go into matches just saying like, I know that I cannot beat this opponent.
Yeah,
And sometimes they'll kind of be right. So
if I could fix
yeah,
this, I would say change
yeah.
it to Canadian Highlander, but without the point
What's that?
restrictions. You know Canadian Highlander? It's
No.
basically a 100 card singleton,
Okay. Yeah.
but no color restrictions as far as I know. And on top of that, they have some sort of like point system for old busted cards, but since we're playing sealed, you should be able to use whatever you open. So I feel like a lot of the fun of Brawl could be sustained if we changed over to Canadian Highlander for these kinds of
Mhm.
planes, or we could have a tournament essentially that had these rules in effect. Because really, what's fun is like the variation. What makes Brawl fun, if Brawl's fun to some people,
Right.
is
Right.
the fact that you can't get multiples, and you know, Canadian Highlander shares exactly the same beneficial fun part of that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I will just say I think the other fun part of Brawl is that it is kind of fun to take this one card that you're excited about and build around it, and it enables you to play cards that synergize with your commander that you would not be able to play normally.
right.
So I think that's kind of fun. It's a neat deck building challenge, but it's not balanced. And that was something we definitely saw with Rolling Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I remember we had a Brawl league. We'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
But I think that the or we maybe already did get to that the Baldur's Gate league. We that was very controversial. We were only there, I think, for 3 weeks, maybe even, but
Yeah.
it was tough to stomach. Do you think that like 1 week out of 6 we can do this and not have it ruin the entire tournament? I think we did. I mean, we saw that people were still pretty happy with plane chase. With plane chase, even if we brawled for a week. But I can
I
imagine that
think,
some people who were gunning for top eight probably felt a little bit cheesed when their odds of making the top eight were dashed by not having a good commander.
yeah, I mean, we did Commander again for the Lord of the Rings League, one of the weeks, and that was similarly a little bit disastrous in terms of balance. Like it turned out a couple commanders were just so strong, and even though it was conquest format where you have to win with two different decks, it's still just um, it felt like it led to a lot of non-games, and there were a lot of just negative feelings. So my feeling is that nobody brawl should not be a required
Mm,
part of leagues going forward.
I like
But
it.
there should be ways to allow it, like as stipulations and things.
Yeah, if two people agree that they want to play out their league game in this way,
Yeah.
then there's probably little harm in letting them do it, right?
Yeah,
But
and I
we
enjoy it. So if it were just up to me, I would keep Brawl in, but I think too many people are just it's too much of a negative for them.
Okay, so moving into the finals, what were the planes that we ripped for the Mega Draft? Do you recall, or do you have it on hand there?
Oh, I do not. Wait, do I have that up?
It should be a few
Oh
announcements
yeah,
down.
yeah. Um, okay, Mega Draft pack order: War of the Spark, M19, Kaladesh Remastered, Theros Beyond Death, Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, Neon Dynasty.
Pretty wild draft experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to. We're sort of running up against our clock here, so I'm going to just quickly
Yeah.
go over a couple more planes and describe what types they might be. Right. So there was one plane called Detection Tower, which was from Mirrodin. The packs were from M19. The stipulation was before you play the first game of any match, you must post a current screenshot of your deck list in the Looking for Matches thread. So that was kind of like playing your decks face up, at least for the first game of the match. That was kind of an interesting one. We didn't do that one in the end. We didn't end up there, but it does seem like that's subverting or challenging one of the central rules of League, which is that you don't your pool's open, but your deck list doesn't have to be, so you can surprise people with your builds. Um, I think that one might have been interesting, even though a lot of trouble to prep.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
There's a bunch of planes that we won't get into individually, but they're basically Nerf X card type style planes, right? So league decks must contain no instants or cards with flash. League decks must contain no cards with a mana value of 5 or more. Um, what other ones? Um, League decks must contain no legendary cards. This kind of stuff. So in other words, just kind of restricting the kinds of cards that can be played, I think, does have a pretty dramatic effect. And I think if you're judicious with them, that still presents a relatively interesting deck building challenge without driving people to the edge of insanity. What do you think about this style of planar restriction?
I like them. I feel like after the first 2 weeks, I want every plane to have some effect on gameplay.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so I enjoy that it's just like a little tweak to the way your matches will play out, as opposed to something that only affects you when you get a punishment pack or comeback pack. Um, so yeah, I'm for it. I think these ones are all the ones that you named are pretty modest.
Yeah.
Well, the no instance and flash one I think would have been controversial, but um, yeah, yeah. I think this is a broader takeaway.
Yeah.
I think if we do a plane chase 3, I think we need to seed. I think you need to have like week 1, there's a pool of planes that you're pulling from. Week 2, there's a pool or something like that, just to ensure that somewhere in there you get a little bit of spice. Like maybe week 4, it's some of the more exciting stipulation type ones. Um,
Yeah, I think we did that in Planechase too, but it just didn't still seem to hit. We might have included one of those like low impact planes because I think we had 36 planes designed, six for each week, but we rolled like 1d6 to see which plane we would get. And I think that it always landed, or at least frequently landed, on planes that were just like bonus sheets or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely have to, if we ever do this again for the third time, complete the trilogy, we would have to design it. We have to be a bit more cautious about the order that we present things in. Again, it was just
Mhm.
very fortuitous. Things came out the way they did. Just a couple more things to focus on. Some of the planes were actually shouting out other leagues that were recent. So just before
Mhm.
this league, there was the Brothers War tournament, right, which was the choice between an Urza and a Mishra pack, basically. Either you open a Brothers War or you get a random historic pack. So the plane for Dominaria Unite, oh sorry, the plane for Brothers War was just that. When you open up a pack there, you get the pack choice, which is kind of cool. I think if we can like call out our own league history on playing cards,
Mhm.
that kind of is it's a bit meta, but it also helps us revisit old tournament mechanics that lots of people probably happy to see get wheeled out for a second go that might
Mhm.
not normally.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, I think that we're pretty much at the end. You had a quote from the beginning of our interview that you asked me to put down, but I think it never really got recorded. What was your verdict on this tournament overall?
Um, it's so good. It's an all time great. It changed AGL forever. Um, Chris, you're brilliant for this idea. So much of what we do now
Blushing.
owes itself to Planechase and to you. So,
Well, that's very
yeah.
kind. That's very kind of you, Sawyer. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that you've done to help us get to where we're at, up to including helping refine the idea to make it more playable than it would have been if I if I just said, no, these plays are perfect and they cannot be critiqued,
Yeah.
right? So
You had some wild ones.
I had some wild ones, and then yeah, and this was a longer process than I thought. I remember into my mind, we had them ready to go like three times, and they had to be
Yeah.
recooked and rebalanced, and eventually we
Yeah.
got there. And I think that I'm proud of this tournament. I think you should be proud of the role that you played in it, and I do
Yeah.
think it. I do humbly think it did inform some future design. I think we're finally getting into the part of Leagues Behind where I can get a bit more enthusiastic because we're not just like, and this was Vanilla League tournament number 20 because people liked the formula and just wanted to see it applied to a new set of cards. So yeah. Thanks again, Sawyer. Congratulations on winning our. At that time, it was our biggest league ever. It's already been supplanted. So whoever wins Edge of Eternities, which could also be you, of course. But up till now, you've won the biggest league that we've ever run. So congrats on that, and thanks again for being my very special guest today to discuss our first Planechase tournament.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Bye for now.
Bye.